Now, shall we begin?
All right.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
This is going to be quite the ride.
And hello everybody, and welcome back to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian, and we're back. I'm so happy to be back doing this podcast. Hello everybody once again. This is the podcast where we talk about all of the latest breaking movie news items that have come out throughout the week. We also talk about the trailers that came out this week. We'll talk about the movies that are out in theaters this weekend for all your viewing pleasures. Movie reviews, opinions, rants, everything far and in between. Anything movie related we talk about here on the podcast. So, first and foremost, hello, I am back. I do remember telling you guys, or informing you guys, I should say, I was going to be out of the country for the next couple weeks, and that was the case. I was out of the country. If you follow me on my personal social media platforms, which I always link down below in the description/show notes area, as I like to call it. I went to Africa. I went to Kenya, to be more specific. And it was a lot of fun. It was a definitely once-in-a-lifetime experience. I'll maybe go back, maybe not to Kenya specifically, maybe somewhere else, but it was very life-changing. It was a very eye-opening experience, and I very much enjoyed my time over there. The flight over there, though, was a pain in the ass, because it's like 17, 18 hours. But after you get that, and after you're there, get past the jet lag, get past the fact that, you may get, something over there. It was a hell of a lot of fun, and I enjoyed my time over there. So, but I've returned. I've come back. I've been back. Obviously, I didn't want to do a podcast last week because I was still kind of a little out of it. So I missed a lot of. Obviously, I've missed a lot of movie news items and trailers and stuff like that. But I've been trying to catch up a little bit since then. But I'm just gonna go off like we usually do. We're going to talk about this week's movie news items, which isn't a lot. There's probably like 3 or 4 movie news items, actual movie news items, and then a bunch of trailers dropped this week. We'll dive into those. But there is 2 movie news items that came out last week that I want to talk about. They're pretty big, and I'd be hard-pressed to just pass up on them just because I was gone. I usually, for those first-time listeners, or, in case you forgot, I always try to talk about the big movie news items that come out after the podcast goes up that previous week. Obviously, I'm not going to talk about all the big movie news items that came out because that would be insane, and this podcast would be probably like 2-3 hours long, and I don't think you want to listen to a 2-3 hour long podcast with just one person. So I'm going to talk about 2 particular ones. They're pretty quick. One of them is pretty quick, but it's really, really awesome, and that is that Jurassic World 3 will bring back the original trio in Jeff Goldblum, Laura Dern, and Sam Neill, which is pretty damn cool. Now, this news came directly from director Colin Trevorrow. He revealed that the original trio and cast will come back for the Untitled Jurassic World 3. Plot details are still currently unknown, but considering how Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom ended, we can pretty much assume that Jurassic World 3 will pick up from that. I have yet to see the short. They released a short, I think it's called Battle for Little Rock or something like that, or Big Rock, something like that. That came out. It actually came out the Sunday that I left, so I didn't get a chance to see it. But it was. I hear that it's pretty good. I hear that it's a nice little bridge between Fallen Kingdom and Jurassic World 3, so I have yet to see that, so I can't really speak too much about it, but I think it's really cool. Obviously, Goldblum, his Ian Malcolm character, made a cameo in Fallen Kingdom, and then Dern and Neill, of course, sat out the previous 2 movies. They last appeared both together in Jurassic Park 3. So it's nice to have them all back, and it's pretty cool. So Jurassic World 3 will open on June 11th, 2021, so we still got quite a ways to go for that to come out, but it's exciting to have all 3 of them come back. because it's Jurassic Park. I mean, they started it pretty much, so it's really, really cool. All right, so the next big movie news item that came out after the podcast, kind of technically after the podcast came out a couple of weeks ago, but this one's pretty big, and this one was one that I would have loved to talk about. I even considered just doing a brief little tidbit on this last week, but I didn't have the chance to. That's, of course, everyone's happy about Spider-Man. Peter Parker, Tom Holland's Peter Parker / Spider-Man is returning to the MCU. Last month, we had some sad news that it was reported that Marvel Studios, or more specifically Disney, and Sony Pictures' partnership over the Spider-Man being in the Marvel Cinematic Universe was over, and it was mostly, of course, due to the thing that runs the world, money. Now, it seems like the two sides have made up with their deal. The deal is to produce one more movie together, at least one more movie together. The studio sent out a press release announcing they've patched things up and that Kevin Feige will oversee, aka produce, the third Spider-Man movie that has also been given a release date. Now, I'll get into that in a little bit. Also, Spider-Man will appear in at least one future Marvel Studios movie, although it is unknown what movie that will be. So people are already suggesting and putting out rumors that it could be the next team-up movie. Of course, we'll have to wait and see on what exactly that is. Now, Kevin Feige did release a statement himself, and what sounds rather interesting considering the recent movie announcements that Sony has been putting out. Feige said that, quote, Spider-Man is a powerful icon and hero whose story crosses all ages and audiences around the globe. He also happens to be the only hero with superpowers across cinematic universes. So as Sony continues to develop their own Spideyverse, you never know what surprises the future might hold. End quote. So for those of you maybe out of the know or just forgot or need a refresher, Sony Pictures recently announced they were doing a Madam Web movie, which fans will know as a character that Spider-Man has come in contact before on multiple occasions and could essentially play a big part in whatever plan they have. They also announced, of course, Venom 2. Morbius is coming out as well sometime next year. They also have a planned Kraven the Hunter movie. They got their Black Cat and Silver Sable movie they put on the back burner. They've got a bunch of stuff. So everyone kind of took that comment from Kevin Feige and suggested that Tom Holland's Spider-Man could cross over to those movies and appear in those movies as, of course, the Peter Parker that we know from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. It's very iffy and interesting, but we'll see kind of what happens on that. So there is an update, a very cool update to how all of this came together, and I'll get to that in this week's movie news items, which again shouldn't be too far considering that there's not too much movie news items this week. But if you really, really need to know what the update is, and you probably already know what the update is if you're a movie news fiend like me, then you probably already know what it is. But if you don't, and you want to hear it right now, there are timestamps in the description / show notes area, so just go down there and click on it and then hear what the update is. If you just want to go along with the ride and like everyone else, then well, stick around. In the meantime, Spider-Man 3 will open on July 16th, 2021. So there you go. Those are really the only two movie news items that I want to talk about that came out last week and after the podcast went out a couple weeks ago. So let's move on this week to trailer talk.
Coming soon to theaters.
Alright, like I mentioned, we had quite a few trailers dropped this week. This really felt more like a trailer week than a movie news week, which I found very interesting considering what the big movie is this week. Maybe they just wanted to not release too many movie news because, everyone's up in arms about that one. So there are quite a few movie trailers that came out this week. A couple we were not going to talk about at all. There was a short trailer for The Good Liar, which is the new movie with Ian McKellen and Helen Mirren. There was a trailer for the I forgot the whole title of them. I don't have it in front of me. But what's it called? The Life of David Copperfield or something like that, with Dave Patel. And that came out this week. That's based off of Charles Dickens' novel of the same name. There was a bilingual trailer for Terminator Dark Fate, which usually I would talk about, but I don't know how they're kind of approaching that. I don't know if they're approaching that as kind of like an official trailer, or if they're approaching that just kind of as an international trailer. So it shows a lot of new footage. It gives you like a lot of new footage. Like that trailer it could technically be a new official trailer, but they kind of just dropped it, and they didn't really make a big fuss out of it. So it's a bilingual trailer because the characters are, some of it takes place in Mexico and the characters are talking Spanish, but you don't have subtitles. So I don't know if there probably is a trailer link out there with subtitles, but the one I saw didn't have it. Of course, I can understand Spanish, so I didn't need it. But there's a bilingual trailer for Terminator Dark Fate, which is new, has a brand new speaking footage, which looks great. So there's that if you want to go check that out. That comes out on November 1st, the movie. So we'll talk more about that, obviously, once we get closer to the release date, because it's a month away, so it's pretty cool. All right, so let's talk about the main trailers this week. The first one we're going to talk about is the first trailer for Jewell. It is directed by Clint Eastwood, and the film follows the true story of Richard Jewell, or Jewell, however you want to pronounce his last name, played by Paul Walter Hauser. Most people will probably remember him from I, Tonya. He plays Sebastian Stan's sidekick, and the man that supposedly planned everything. He was also in Black Klansman, kind of playing the same kind of goofball, doofus character. He was also, apparently, I have not watched it, and I keep forgetting that he's in it. He's also in YouTube's Cobra Kai, so that's pretty cool. So anyway, Paul Walter Hauser plays Richard Jewell, a security guard who saves thousands of lives from a bomb at the 1996 Olympics, but is unjustly vilified, that's apparently a hard word to say, by journalists, the press, and even the FBI, who falsely report him as the terrorist.
Let's get a new tape going. All right, Richard, here's what we're going to do.
We need a voice exemplar.
I want you to say into this phone, there's a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
Richard, you're a national hero now.
Thank you, sir. But I was just doing my job.
You always look at the guy who found the bomb, just like you always look at the guy who found the body.
Jewell fits the profile of the lone bomber.
A frustrated white man who is a police wannabe who seeks to become a hero.
We're running it. You're a suspect. You don't talk. I talk. Say it.
I don't talk.
This might be the only way to clear your name. I want you to say, there's a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
Stop trying to be their best friend.
I was raised to respect authority.
Authorities are looking to eat you alive.
There's a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
I'm sorry, what?
His accusers are two of the most powerful forces in the world. The United States government and the media.
I do want to help y'all. I'm law enforcement, too. There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
Did he do it?
Richard Jewell is an innocent man. He's a hero.
There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
One more time, just a little louder.
I report the facts.
You've ruined this man's life.
There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
Do a couple in a row.
My son saved people's lives.
There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
You set that bomb!
There is a bomb in Centennial Park. You have 30 minutes.
I don't know how to protect you.
I think your client is guilty as hell.
They want to fry you. You ready to start fighting back?
So this, I knew about this movie. They've been working on this movie for a little bit. Originally, Jonah Hill was going to play Richard Jewell. Sam Rockwell's in the movie. He plays Richard Jewell's lawyer. Originally, Leonardo DiCaprio was going to play the lawyer, but I don't know what kind of happened and things kind of fell through. So they ended up going with Paul Walter Hauser, which is, I mean, if you watch I, Tonya and even Black Klansman, and then you watch the trailer for this, and you've never seen him in anything else, it is pretty cool to see the fact that is the same person. I mean, obviously it's the same person, but the range that he has, all three of those roles that are very different, especially this one compared to I, Tonya and Black Klansman, is phenomenal. And I think I don't know anything about the Richard Jewell story. Again, this is based off a true story. This is a real person who did save lives from a bombing when he discovered a bomb in the Olympic field in 1996. Was that Atlanta? I think it was Atlanta. But I was pretty young. This is 1996. I was maybe like what, 4 or 5. I don't know how to work years. No, I was probably like 5, 6, something like that. So I don't know how to work years, but I didn't really watch the news back then, so I wouldn't know anything about this guy. But regardless of that, it's, you know, knowing the story now and seeing kind of how Eastwood is approaching the story. Eastwood pretty much, just by the trailer itself, he's pretty much behind Jewell being... I mean, Jewell was found innocent years and years later. Not right away. The FBI, the press, journalists, they pretty much ruined this guy's life for a long time. And they kind of touch on that in the trailer, and obviously they're probably going to touch on that a lot in the movie. But they ruined his life. And it seems like Eastwood is really, really pushing that the villains, quote unquote, in the movie are the FBI, are the journalists. One of the journalists is played by Olivia Wilde in the movie, and John Hamm plays the lead, I guess the lead FBI investigator. They even, you know, has the trailer starts off with him, and I think that's Ian Gomez next to him as his partner, trying to get Richard Jewell to, you know, and right away, you can tell from the trailer right away, they're trying to get him to say, you know, there's a bomb at this place, and it's going to go off in 30 minutes. And knowing what we know now, and, you know, like, no one in their right mind would say those things. But this is a guy who, obviously, he did the right thing, and he's trying to help with the investigation, and they're trying to pin it on him, which is, you know, again, knowing what we know now, and knowing that this guy's innocent, but watching the trailer, it's almost like, why are you picking on this guy? It's you know, Clint Eastwood clearly has a stance on it, and Clint Eastwood's stance is pretty much true, because obviously, again, Jewell was proven innocent on every account. People were assuming that he was the one that planted the bomb just so he can make himself look like a hero. So it's a rather interesting story, and I'm surprised that one, I've never really heard about it until I heard this movie was going to come out, and two, there hasn't been another movie about it, at least not that I'm aware of. So yeah. Also, FYI, Eastwood shot this movie over the summer. He shot this movie this year, and it's already ready to come out. The turnaround on this thing is amazing, and the fact that he was able to pull that off, kudos to him, and kudos to his editor and to the studio for being like, oh, you're done with it? Okay, good. We're going to put it in prime Oscar season, because Richard Jewell comes out later this year on December 13th. So I don't know if maybe they're trying to push it for an Oscar, but we'll see what happens. Regardless, the trailer is great. Obviously, as you heard, it's very, very tense. So I can only imagine how the movie is going to be. All right, so let's move on to the next trailer. And this is the trailer that had a lot of fans talking. I, first and foremost, just going to say right off the bat, not the biggest fan of the trailer. And that is the trailer for Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
You know what a Harlequin is? A Harlequin's role is to serve. It's nothing without a master. No one gives two shits who we are beyond that. The Joker and I broke up. I wanted a fresh start. But it turns out I wasn't the only Damon Gotham looking for emancipation.
Spectacular news! Miss Quinn, she belongs to me.
Who are you guys?
Here's the deal, Quinn.
You need me.
Hey, Cosmos. Harley, focus. Okay.
I'm the one they should be scared of. Not you. Not Mr. J. Because I'm Harley freaking Quinn.
Who's having a good time?
Get ready, ladies.
Psycho chick. I never call a woman a chick. I'll accept broad, lady, woman, and on occasion, bitch. Bitch? What are you talking about? That for me, will you?
So, if you've seen the trailer, and it seems like a lot of people did on Twitter, it does feel more like Harley Quinn and Friends, or just Harley Quinn, not Birds of Prey. And I think that's the thing that really everyone is up in arms about. Because the movie's called Birds of Prey, but Harley Quinn is front and center. Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is front and center. And I'm not... I don't want to complain too much, because we have to take this for granted. First and foremost, obviously, Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn is going to be the massive and the, in all capitals, capital T-H-E, the selling point of the movie. No matter what. You can put everyone else in front of the posters. You're going to have her in the background of the poster. You're going to have her in the background of the trailers. They're going to see Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, and they're going to be like, that's what I'm going to go watch the movie for. Because everyone loved Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I liked Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad. One of the only good things of Suicide Squad. Very few good things of Suicide Squad. But to call this movie Birds of Prey, to release the first trailer for Birds of Prey, and to put Harley Quinn front and center, she's in basically every shot of this trailer, and to call it Birds of Prey, it's really a slap in the face to the other actresses, to the characters they're playing, because it's not a Birds of Prey movie. At least from the looks of this trailer, it's a Harley Quinn movie. And yes, even though the subtitle, quote unquote, the very long subtitle of the movie has Harley Quinn in it, just call it Harley Quinn. Or call it Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey. Don't call it just Birds of Prey. And then just be like, oh, here's Harley Quinn. Oh, and you know, the Huntress is in the background. Black Canary is there too. You know, whatever. No. That's what everyone's really mostly upset about, is the fact that they're just... they're going to sell this movie. And again, it's the selling point of the movie. It's what's going to make them the most dollars in the box office, is Harley Quinn's... or Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. Oh, that's getting tongue-tied all of a sudden. So, for those of you who don't know, Birds of Prey, by the way, the movie itself, it follows Harley Quinn after breaking up with the Joker, who goes, you know, to live her own life and try to do something else, when she is basically thrust into this dangerous, evil crime lord's way, Black Mask, played by Ian McGregor. And Black Mask, by the way, one of the many Batman villains out there, and it looks like maybe she has to protect this young girl who's played by Ella J. Bosco. I believe she's actually playing Cassandra Cain, and if you're in the Batman lore, you know exactly who Cassandra Cain is. I'm not going to ruin it for you in case they actually go that route. But the Birds of Prey themselves, the other people in the movie, are Jurnee Smollett-Bell. I think that's how you pronounce her first name. She's playing Black Canary. She was in the TV series Underground. She was on True Blood, and she was also on Friday Night Lights. You have Mary Elizabeth Winston playing the Huntress, who is really, really cool, and I can't wait to see how she plays that out. Rosie Perez is playing Gotham City Detective Renee Montoya. Chris Messina is also in the movie. He was in The Newsroom, The Mindy Project. He's recently in HBO's Sharp Objects. He plays Victor Zayas, who is also another Batman villain. I don't know what villain is. And Ali Wong is also in the movie. She's not in the trailer, but she is in the movie. She's in the cast list. So Birds of Prey opens on February 7th, 2020. And for those of you guys who don't know, Birds of Prey is actually a comic book arc. Harley Quinn, from time to time, is part of the Birds of Prey. Huntress is definitely one of them. Black Canary is definitely one of them. It's usually kind of Batwoman or a variation of other characters like Poison Ivy and Catwoman, all these other characters. But they're going with Harley Quinn, Black Canary, the Huntress. It looks like maybe they're even counting Renee Montoya as a Birds of Prey, so it should be kind of interesting to see how that plays out. Again, first trailer impressions, not great when you call your movie again Birds of Prey and only sell Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. And nothing against Margot Robbie, obviously, nothing against her. She's fantastic, but not the best first impression. All right, so let's move on to the next trailer, and that is the new trailer for The Kingsman, which is a prequel / origin story of Matthew Vaughn's Kingsman movies.
This will not be a war of heroes. Which is all to say, this is going to be fun.
The world burns.
You have no idea of what men are capable of.
We must do something.
I know you want to fight. But there are other ways of doing your duty. You're going to need a suit. Come on. We are the first independent intelligence agency. Preserving peace and protecting life.
Welcome to the club.
Generals gathered in their masses. Just like witches at black masses.
While governments wait for orders, our people take action.
Evil minds that plot destruction.
Now it's time to show the world.
Sorcerer of death's construction.
How mighty you are.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Our enemies think we are gentlemen. But reputation is what people think of you. Character is what you are. Armed and ready. Armed, yes. But ready, well, we shall see. This is called a parachute. It means that one can jump out of a plane safely.
The synopsis reads like this: a collection of history's worst tyrants and criminal masterminds gather to plot a war to wipe out millions. One man must race against time to stop them. The movie is set during World War I, and you kind of get real big vibe. Looks like World War I is back in the frame of mind for moviegoers. And in true fashion, you can tell this is a Kingsman movie right off the bat. Matthew Vaughn, of course, directed the first Kingsman movie. He directed the second one. He does return to direct this one, and you can automatically kind of tell from the action shots that this is a Kingsman movie. You got those real quick cuts, you got those real looking like one continuous shots. I didn't want to say shots back to back, but it looks really, really cool. It really does. And you got Ralph Fiennes in there, you have Harris Dickinson in there. It looks like they play, I don't know if they play father and son, or maybe it seems like they have a bigger connection with each other, not just just two random people brought together. Jaemoon Hansu's in there as well. Gemma Arterton is there. Rhys Ifans, Tom Hollander, Daniel Bruhl's in there. He's briefly in the trailer. Matthew Good and Charles Dance. It looks like the villain is Rasputin from the looks of it, or maybe someone who's supposed to be Rasputin and it looks a lot like Rasputin, but it looks great. It does look great. There is a very Wonder Woman-esque shot. It was in the first trailer as well. It looks like maybe Ralph Fiennes' character is kind of just bashing out of a barn, and you can just tell it looks a lot like the shot from the Wonder Woman movie where she pops out of the window. So I mean, it's a great shot nonetheless, but it reminded me a lot of Wonder Woman. But it's a great trailer. I really loved it. I really liked the first Kingsman movie. I know a lot of people were put off by the second one because of that scene, and for good reason. I'm not going to sit here and defend it. It's for good reason. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think it looks really great. I think the prequel / origin story of it all is pretty cool. I think the fact that we get to see Ralph Fiennes play a badass is awesome. So I'm all for it. So the Kingsman opens February 14th, 2020. And now we're going to move on to the... no, not the last... Actually, you know what? Let's keep the World War I train going. I was going to say this for the last trailer, but I'm not going to do that. So the next trailer we're going to talk about is the new trailer for Universal Pictures' new World War I war movie. I'm losing my mind slowly. I can't talk apparently. The new World War I movie, 1917.
Blake, pick a man, bring your kit.
I hoped today might be a good day. Hope is a dangerous thing.
You have a brother in the 2nd Battalion.
Yes, sir.
They're walking into a trap. Your orders are to deliver a message, calling off tomorrow morning's attack. If you fail, it will be a massacre.
Let's talk about this for a minute.
Why?
We've got orders to cross here.
That is the German front line.
If we're not clever about this, no one will get to your brother. I will.
There's only one way this ends. Last man standing.
I'm going back to see my father.
We need to keep moving! Come on!
I'm going back, no more tomorrow.
We can't possibly make it that way, man! You bloody insane!
If you don't get there in time, we will lose 1,600 men. Your brother among them. Good luck.
The film follows two young British officers, soldiers, played by George McKay, who was in Captain Fantastic, and Dean Charles Chapman, who was in Game of Thrones and AMC's Into the Badlands. Surprisingly, he played Tommen, and he looks very, very different from Game of Thrones till now. But over the course of a single day, they have to deliver a message that could save 1,600 soldiers. Directed by Sam Mendes, who directed Skyfall, which was the James Bond movie, with cinematography done by the great and legendary Roger Deakins. He has done the cinematography for Skyfall, Sicario, and Blade Runner 2049, just to name a few. And they all look amazing for the reason that the cinematography for them was done by Roger Deakins. Speaking of which, there was a behind the scenes featurette that came out, which shows Deakins, Mendes, the writer of the movie, and the two stars, McKay and Chapman, explaining how they pulled the way the movie's going to look off. And the way the movie's going to look is it's going to look like it was done in one continuous shot, which is highly, highly impressive. And it sounds like Mendes wanted the story to play out in real time, hence the quote-unquote unbroken shot approach that they took. And Deakins wanted to shoot the exterior shots outside under cloud cover, which meant that if they showed up and the sun was outside, they waited until a bunch of clouds came along to start filming, which is Only a man like Roger Deakins can pull that off. And if he says we're waiting, you wait, because that is the amount of respect that he has earned. Moreover, the film had 2 scripts, one with dialogue and story points, and one with precise camera moves. Like I mentioned, they wanted to film this movie like there was no edits, so they had to really, be meticulous and account for everything. This is a similar approach they did to Birdman, of course, the movie with Michael Keaton that was directed by Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu. The cinematography for that was done by Emmanuel Lubensky, who also did the cinematography for The Revenant. And if you remember The Revenant, that big opening with the attack in the woods and everything, that was made to look like one continuous shot. Lubensky also did the cinematography for Gravity, which also looked like it was done in one continuous shot. So, this approach has been done before. Lubensky is also responsible for the one continuous shot in Children of Men, the many multiple one continuous shots in Children of Men. So this is something that not every cinematographer can do. And Lubensky is one of the best at doing that. And I think the next best person to do it is Deakins, because he can pull that off. And I am overly excited to see how they pull this off. And the trailer, just from the looks of it, obviously the trailer's, a bunch of edited clips together, but you can kind of tell how they'll approach the one continuous shot approach, and I'm really into it. I'm really digging it. So, 1917 co-stars Colin Firth, Benedict Cumberbatch, Andrew Scott, Richard Madden, and Mark Strong. It opens in a limited release on December 25th. Which most likely means mostly in Los Angeles and New York, and maybe a few other big markets here and there, maybe even here in Chicago. It's probably going to play like in one theater here too, but it gets a nationwide release next year on January 10th. So in case you're interested in that, I know I am. This is one of my most anticipated movies of the year, so I'm really looking forward to that. So let's move on to the next trailer, the final trailer that we're going to talk about, and that is the first trailer for Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman.
I want you to play a game with me, Ray.
I don't want to play a game.
Oh, please?
No.
I said play a game with me, Raymond.
Right.
Lovely. I want you to imagine a character. Your boss, Mickey Pearson.
You're too smart to be blackmailing us, Fletcher.
Sweet Mary Jane is my vice. Your poison, on the other hand, is and always has been the destroyer of worlds.
You're out of touch, and I would like you to consider an offer.
I am not for sale. The plot begins to thicken. Now, I can't be specific about the heroes and zeros, but our protagonist is a hungry animal. There is a lot of money hanging in the balance. Our antagonist explodes on the scene like a millennial firework and has indirectly started a war.
I think you need to see this, boss.
That's one of my fireworks. How do they find it?
I'm making inquiries.
His name is Fahak. It's spelled with a PH, so it sounds like Fahak.
Please!
All right, Fahak, Kanda Fahak.
Please!
If you smell smoke, it's because there's a fire. So you're gonna have to stamp that out quickly.
These people are going to clean house, and you are part of that house.
In the jungle, the only way a lion survives, not by acting like a king, by being the king.
Oh.
Brilliant!
I've been waiting so long to be where I'm going.
Oh, it's really warming up now, isn't it?
The sunshine on your...
There's only one rule in this jungle. When the lion's hungry, he eats.
One of our associates had an accident.
So you killed someone?
No, it was the gravity that killed him. Gonna need those phones.
directed by Guy Ritchie, who has directed movies like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, Snatch, the Sherlock Holmes movies, the ones with Robert Downey Jr., The Man from U.N.C.L.E., which I highly recommend. It's very underappreciated. I recommend you watch that. He directed King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, and recently he directed Aladdin. That follows an American expat, Mickey Pearson, played by Matthew McConaughey, who built a highly profitable marijuana empire in London. When word gets out that he's looking to cash out of the business forever, it triggers plots, schemes, bribery, and blackmail in an attempt to steal his domain out from under him. The star-studded cast includes Charlie Hunnam, again, McConaughey, Charlie Hunnam, Henry Golding, Michelle Dockery, Jeremy Strong, Eddie Marsden, Colin Farrell, and Hugh Grant. The Gentleman opens next year on January 24th. I love this trailer. I don't know what it is about it. I am a huge Guy Ritchie fan. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch are great. They are pinnacle Guy Ritchie. If you've never watched a Guy Ritchie movie, watch those two movies. He just has this thing about writing criminals and just having the story, and you can tell just this trailer just oozes Guy Ritchie. You know, current Guy Ritchie, you know, you got Aladdin, you got Man from U.N.C.L.E., you got King Arthur, Legend of the Sword, but Guy Ritchie, you know, if you really want the pinnacle of Guy Ritchie, the prime of Guy Ritchie, it's Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels, it's Snatch. I would even put Rock'n'Rolla in there. I know a lot of people don't like Rock'n'Rolla, but I actually kind of really enjoy Rock'n'Rolla. It's not perfect. It's not, you know, it's not Snatch or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels level Guy Ritchie, but it's there. You can tell the essence of it is there, and I really enjoy it. So this just looks great, and the cast is great. Matthew McConaughey playing a marijuana kingpin in London is amazing. You got Charlie Hunnam in there being Charlie Hunnam. Henry Golding looks like he's the quote-unquote antagonist that's Hugh Grant is spewing out about. Michelle Dockery's in there. I don't know who she's playing. It looks like she's playing maybe like a middle woman or someone on the outside. I don't know who she's playing. Jeremy Strong's in there. Eddie Marsden's in there. Colin Farrell is in there. He has that great line about, you know, the PH sounding like the F. So it's really great. It's an awesome trailer. I really enjoyed it. I knew about it when it was announced, but seeing the trailer now, this one just jumped. I really can't talk today. Jumped to the top of my must-watch list. So, The Gentleman, that again comes out next year, January 24th, and those are all your trailers that came out this week. Obviously, if anything else drops, I'll drop it down below in the description/show notes area. Keep you guys updated when I can. So, let's move on to this week's movie news items. Alright, so like I mentioned, we don't have a lot of movie news items. Yes, there was that Martin Scorsese story that came out where he talked about Marvel movies. I'm not going to get into that because I feel like I need someone else here to bounce off of, and I didn't get anyone else to talk about. I didn't get Mike to record anything because I honestly didn't know if I was going to do a podcast this week again because of just time constrictions and me getting back to work and everything. But I'm not going to get into what he said. He said it. It's Martin Scorsese. Look, the man is one of the best directors of all time. I'm just going to put it out there, of all time. And I'm pretty sure people will agree with me on that. Obviously, he has The Irishman coming out, which has been making waves already at the film festivals, and people have been talking about it. I love Martin Scorsese. I love his movies. Every now and then a big director will come out and say something, take jabs at the comic book movies. They'll take jabs at Marvel movies. They will take jabs at the DC movie. I mean, anyone can take jabs at DC movies, but the Marvel movies are the main ones because they're the ones obviously that make the most amount of money. But there's always directors that are taking jabs at. Obviously, Steven Spielberg is someone who has taken multiple jabs at the superhero genre, at the Marvel movies. And Martin Scorsese is just the latest director to do so. And he obviously has the right to talk about his feelings toward it. I mean, he's at least a director that's, in his quote, he said, I try to watch them. I try to sit down and watch them, and he just couldn't do it. And at least he tried. Most directors would be like, I'm not into it. Have you ever watched one? No, I've never watched it. But, no. If you never watched anything, you're not allowed to talk about it. But I'm just going to say this. And I've always said this, and I will say this till I'm blue in the face, until I'm old and gray, and I will put it on my tombstone. You are allowed to like the movies you like. You are allowed to like different genres of movies. Just because you like one certain genre of movie does not mean you have to hold other movies to that standard. And I am a prime example of this, because I am you guys know it. I'm a flat out movie nerd. I enjoy the Marvel movies. I love the Marvel movies. But I also like the Oscar baiting movies. I like the dramas. I like the 2.5 hour movies of, a character questioning, where his life, falls into place in the world and everything else like in between. That was a very poor way of putting it, but you know what I meant. I like those movies. I like all movies. I judge every movie for what it is. I don't put it next to, I'm not going to put, I'm not going to put, 1917, for example, just based off the trailer, next to Avengers Endgame, because they're two very different movies. And they're two very different subjects, and they're two very different genres. I'm not going to put those two movies together because they happen to have a war scene in them. I'm not going to do that. And I'm not saying that's what Martin Scorsese is doing. I am not saying that is what he's doing at all. I'm just trying to say that everyone is entitled to their own opinions. He tried to watch them. He didn't like them. He doesn't see them as cinema. And that's fine. It really is. He is entitled to his opinion. He's been around for a while. He has probably seen a crap ton of movies that maybe some of us don't even know existed. So he is entitled to his opinion. And I say this because I know the fandom. I know the fandoms are gonna come out, and they've already come out. And I've tried to avoid it on film Twitter because I don't want to see the toxicity of the fandom, which is one of the things that I do absolutely hate about fandoms, is there's always a big chunk of them. It's not a little chunk. It's become bigger over the years. A big chunk of toxicity, of toxic fans who come out and will fight and cut you and make sure that you no longer want to live or no longer want to open an app to check on things because you have a different opinion than them. So I read his comments, and I thought, you know what, he's entitled to his opinion. And again, he's not the first big director either, to come out, or star, celebrities have done it as well, to come out and say that they're not interested in superhero movies. They're not interested in the Marvel movies. And that's fine, because it's their opinion. It's their choice. It's, it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, to put it lightly. Not to put it lightly. I don't know why I said that. I tell you, I can't talk today. But, yeah, I don't know. I know everyone got up in arms a little bit about it, and everyone's kind of like, it's true. And then, of course, the toxic fan comes in and be like, you know what, you're wrong, and I'm done. I've never been that person. I don't want to be that person, and I don't want to be around people who are like that. So he said it. He said his opinions. There are people out there who will give better explanations, and I'll probably like them and retweet them on Twitter and stuff like that. So he's entitled to his opinion, first and foremost. And is he right or wrong? I mean, that's up to, you to decide, and hopefully you can decide it in a very respectful manner. All right, that's all I'll say about the Martin Scorsese stuff. Let's move on to the rest of the movie news items. Let's move on to Clerks 3. Which is there's one side of the spectrum, and then there's this side of the spectrum. Kevin Smith has officially announced that Clerks 3 is back on the table. In case you didn't know, Clerks 3 was supposed to be Kevin Smith's next movie after Yoga Hosers, but he ended up making Jay and Silent Bob Reboot instead, which comes out next week in a limited run, because he had a falling out with one of the stars of Clerks, mainly Jeff Anderson, who plays one of the set Clerks. And now it looks like things have finally cooled down and everything's water under the bridge. The two have made up, and Smith revealed that he's writing a different script for the movie because he won't be using the same script that he wrote back in 2017, so it's a brand new whole new thing. Bill O'Halloran, who was the other Clerk, will return as well, making the reunion complete, and Kevin Smith's Silent Bob and Jason Mewes' Jay will also return as well. No word yet on when that will go into production, but considering that Smith said he's writing a new script, it may be a while. Although Smith has been known to kind of write scripts pretty quickly, so maybe we'll see this in a few years. We'll see. Let's move on to the next movie news item. And fresh off the success, The Scariest Stories to Tell in the Dark, director Andre Overdahl has landed a potential promising project in Last Voyage of the Demeter. The movie is somewhat of a spin-off of Bram Stoker's Dracula. Why did I say that weird? Because in the novel, the Demeter, or however you want to pronounce it, is the ship that ferried Dracula from Transylvania to London, and in arriving, it is destroyed with only one survivor. So this film, will tell the story of all the madness that befell the ship before arriving in London. Of course, being Hollywood, The Last Voyage of the Demeter has been in the works for quite some time. It's jumped from studio to studio, and the last time the project was in the news was back in 2012, when Neil Marshall, the director of the recent Hellboy movies, also directed The Descent and Dog Soldiers, was attached to direct, and Viggo Mortensen, aka Aragorn from the Lord of the Rings movies, was eyed for the lead role. Before that, David Slade, the director of Hard Candy, 30 Days of Night, he's directed episodes of Hannibal, the TV series, and American Gods. He also directed Netflix's Black Mirror Bandersnatch movie. He was set to direct with both Noomi Rapace, who was coming off the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movie, and Sherlock Holmes 2, and was eyed for Prometheus. She was set to star in the movie along with Ben Kingsley. They were attached before that, and David Slade came on. But before even Slade was attached, Austrian director, I should say, Stefan Rozuwitsky, I think that's how you pronounce his last name, I don't know. He was attached to direct, as well was Marcus Nipsell, who did the remakes for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Conan the Barbarian, and Friday the 13th. So this movie has gone through a lot of directors. Clearly, it's bounced around, like I mentioned, from studio to studio. The script was first written back all the way in 2001. That's how long this movie's been in the works. And there's a chance that the script, which originally was written by Bragi Schultz, I think that's pronounced his last name, there's a chance that his script could be rewritten once everything actually gets going. Granted, we'll probably have to wait for the project because Overdahl's next project is actually an adaptation of Stephen King's novel The Long Walk. So he's going to go work on that, and then it looks like maybe if he stays attached to this could be his next movie. So there's going to be a little bit of a wait, but if it finally does happen, I think Overdahl probably is the best director for it. I know Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark had a very mixed reception. I'm pretty much in the positive respect of it. There are some things where I'm just like, that doesn't make any sense. But there is that. He also directed the great little thriller, horror thriller that I really enjoy, called The Autopsy of Jane Doe. So if you've not seen The Autopsy of Jane Doe, I highly recommend that, because that is Overdahl at probably his finest. I think that's probably my favorite film of his so far. Because he also directed Troll Hunters, which was a found footage movie about people hunting trolls. But I really love The Autopsy of Jane Doe. I think that's my favorite movie of his so far. But if he can bring that, he brought a little bit of that Autopsy of Jane Doe horror to Scary Stories. But if he can bring that to this, The Last Voyage of the Demeter, I think we're in for a really fun ride. No pun intended. But, okay. So there's that. Alright, so let's talk about the last movie news item. At least at the time of this recording. Obviously, if anything drops, I will update it on the Facebook page. I've been trying to update the Facebook page. I don't know if maybe you guys are following over there, but if you are, I've been trying to update it. It's mostly trailers, but I'm going to try to do more of the news. Obviously, it's a slow news week. That's what, yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a slow news week, so there's that. Okay, so the last movie news item we're going to talk about is relating to the Tom Holland story, the Spider-Man being back in the MCU story from earlier. There was an update. I told you guys about that. So, according to a report from the Hollywood Reporter, Tom Holland himself was the reason that Disney and Sony agreed to a new deal to bring Spider-Man back into the MCU. So here's a little recap, or refresher of the news, or new news to you if you haven't been following the story. So Disney offered to co-finance the next Spider-Man movie in a 50-50 exchange. The 50-50, of course, being half of the box office, in which Sony, of course, didn't like. Marvel had originally, or Disney, I should say, had originally only gotten around 5% of the box office. Unknowingly to us, I guess at the time, I didn't know about this. In January, a 25-25 deal was put on the table, but Sony didn't counter it until nearly 6 months later. And that led to Alan Horn, Disney's co-chairman, in June to walk away from the table entirely. And in case you need a time frame, January, 6 months later, that's June. But in June, they already started doing the press tour for Spider-Man Far From Home. So that means when they were doing the press tour for Spider-Man Far From Home, the partnership between Marvel/Disney, mostly Disney, and Sony was already over before we even knew it. Of course, we didn't hear about the news until August, when both sides, of course, started blaming each other about whose fault it was that the deal fell through, and of course it left fans confused, angry, what have you, over the news. So how does Tom Holland fit into all of this? Apparently, Holland was instrumental, quote-unquote, according to the report, in bringing both sides back to the negotiating table, even using his starring role in Sony's upcoming and long-gesturing movie, Uncharted, which is, of course, based off the video game. And he used that as leverage to convince Sony chairman Tom Rothman to re-engage with Disney. But the cherry on top, the piece of all this story, the ballsy move by Tom Holland in all this, was that Holland reportedly reached out to Disney CEO Bob Iger. Yes, he reached out to Disney CEO Bob Iger, the biggest of bigwigs in Hollywood, the man that you don't fuck with at all because he will probably ruin your career. He reached out to him and stressed how upset fans were over the split. And apparently Tom Holland's very ballsy move in all of this worked, because he got both sides to go back on the negotiating table, and of course he worked out this deal. The deal, again, being that Kevin Feige would produce the next Spider-Man movie with Sony, which will be Spider-Man 3, and that would allow Tom Holland to appear in at least one more Marvel movie. Again, we don't know what Marvel movie that will be. That's the deal that currently stands right now. Of course, there's money issues, but I'm not going to bore you with the money issues because, obviously that's the thing that runs the world and the thing that runs Hollywood. But the important thing is that Tom Holland is back in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as Peter Parker / Spider-Man, especially considering the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. Because if Sony was like, nah, we're done, we're going to make our own Spider-Man universe, after an ending like that, and especially in the Marvel Cinematic Universe of all things, after an ending like that, how are you going to ignore those events or not say a conclusion to those events? Because that is big. That is massive. So, so kudos to Tom Holland for doing that. I don't know what kind of leverage he had over Uncharted that it just says leverage. Like, was he gonna drop out of the project? I don't know. Like, what was your story behind that? Uncharted also apparently Travis Knight, the director of Bumblebee and Kubo and the Two Strings, is maybe going to direct that. Apparently he's in talks to direct that movie. So we'll see what happens with that. But, of course, the main story here, Tom Holland, good on you. No, seriously, good on you for bringing Spider-Man back into the MCU. You are forever great. I don't think Tom Holland will be able to go anywhere and be able to buy anything that he wants because fans will just buy it for him. This is massive. This is pretty big. This is huge. And the fact that he was, not the fact that the deal is back on, the fact that that it was reported that Tom Holland went to the chairs and CEOs of both companies and said, get your asses back in the negotiating table because fans want this. That's pretty big. And I applaud Tom Holland. And everyone's been applauding Tom Holland, but I officially now applaud Tom Holland here on the podcast, so it's really cool. That's it. That's all the movie news that's come out, again, at least the time of this recording. So let's move on to this week's movie releases.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Alright, so we only have just a few movies coming out this weekend. We have 2 limited releases coming out. The first one is Pain and Glory. A film director reflects on the choices he's made in life as past and present come crashing down around him. And that stars Antonio Banderas. Penelope Cruz is also in that movie. I haven't really heard too much about the movie. I've heard a few people talk about it and they've had some pretty positive things to say. So again, that's a limited release, so be aware of that. The next limited release is Lucy in the Sky. That follows astronaut Lucy Cola, played by Natalie Portman, who returns to Earth after a transcendent experience during a mission to space and begins to lose touch with reality in a world that now seems too small. That is directed by Noah Hawley, who of course has had a hand in the TV series like Fargo and Legion. Lucy in the Sky co-stars John Hamm, Dan Stevens, Zazie Beetz, Nick Offerman, Coleman Domingo, Jeffrey Donovan, and Ella Bernstein. The movie premiered at some of the film festivals, and despite early buzz saying that this could be really good, the buzz now is that this movie is not very good. So it's I was interested in it from the trailers and stuff like that. It wasn't something that I was wholly looking forward to, but hearing the word of mouth so far, it kind of does dampen my experience a little bit, or world dampen. Not my experience, but at least my expectations. The small expectations already that I allow myself to have on certain movies. So Lucy in the Sky is getting a limited release this week. It will get an expansion release later this month. I don't know why sometimes they do it, but I don't know why they would do it for this movie. I guess this was always originally the plan. It wasn't because of the word of mouth. This was originally the plan. They were going to limited release the movie at the beginning of the month. I believe maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, it gets its wide release. So if you don't see it in theaters this weekend, just wait for it and it will come out soon. But of course, the wide release this week, it's the big one. It's the one that everyone's talking about. It's Joker, a standalone story around the origin story of Batman's iconic arch-nemesis never before seen on screen. Todd Phillips, the director of the Hangover movies and War Dogs, directs the exploration of Arthur Fleck, played by Joaquin Phoenix, a man disregarded by society, and a broader cautionary tale. Joker co-stars Zazie Beetz, Francis Conroy, Brett Cullen, Douglas Hodge, Mark Maron, Brian T. Henry, Shea Wingham, and Robert De Niro. I have not watched it. The original plan was for me to watch it on Thursday, but again, I was out of the country when tickets went on sale, so I couldn't get tickets, so now I have to wait for the weekend, like everyone else. No, I'm fine with that. I'm okay with that. So I have not watched the movie yet. I have been staying away from what people are saying. Some thoughts have gone through, and people are saying it's very interesting. Some of the thoughts that I've heard are very mixed. There's people saying that it's good. There's people saying that it's awesome. There's people saying that it's not all that great, but I'm still gonna say that I like it. So it seems like Joker is gonna be a very divisive and divisive film for fans. I'm okay with that. So I don't know, man. It's interesting, and this movie has already gotten a lot of buzz. Obviously, the trailers made film Twitter go crazy, and people were already eating each other on film Twitter already. But when the trailers came out, and taking sides already before they even see the movie in general. Obviously, Warner Brothers put out that that story, how they were not going to show the movie, and Warner Brothers and certain theaters were saying they weren't going to show the movie because they were afraid of potential threats. I think I saw a headline this morning that a showing in, I don't know if it was South Carolina or somewhere, that they canceled the screening because of a real and incredible threat. So if you're watching Joker this weekend, just be careful. Be aware of your surroundings. You know, I know there's not, you know, we shouldn't be afraid to go watch a movie, especially a movie like this, but, you know, sometimes that happens, and unfortunately it happens. So just be aware of your surroundings. Be careful when you're watching this weekend. And everyone's saying like, well, I haven't seen too much of this, but I'm assuming that there are people saying, oh, well, I don't see what the big deal is. Obviously you don't, because I think people have been trying to downplay it a little bit as much as possible. But let's wind back. I believe one of the towns and theaters that are not showing it at all is Aurora, Colorado. And if you remember Aurora, Colorado, Aurora was where, unfortunately, during a screening of The Dark Knight Rises, someone went in and murdered a bunch of people. And if I remember correctly, one of the things that I'm not going to say his name, but one of the things that the person said, and I kind of don't even want to really call him a person, said was that I'm the Joker when he was shooting his guns. And I understand Colorado and Aurora, more specifically in the theater where they don't want to play it. I understand their fear, and I understood it, and I was not surprised when I read that news. And I'm not surprised that certain theaters in some areas are not even allowing some people to cosplay as or dress up as the Joker, or just dress up in general. I don't blame them. I really don't. And everyone, you know, it's one of those things where some people get it and some people don't, and I understand that. But if you've been hurt by this before, or you have a character like this where, you know, he kind of, it's a movie about anarchy in the sense as well, just from the looks of it. Again, I haven't seen it, so I don't blame people being like, you know, we're not going to allow people to dress up, we're not going to allow people to do this. And you know, if you get stopped at a movie theater because you have a big bag on or a backpack, don't be surprised if they stop you and be like, hey, can we check your bag? Don't, just let them do it. Let them do their jobs. Because if you got nothing to hide, then it doesn't matter. But yeah, there is that. And you know, that's one side. Then there's the other side. Then there's Todd Phillips, who came out and said something that has kind of just not rubbed people the right way. He came out and said that the Joker, he said he didn't want to do any more comedies because of a woke culture. And that's one of the reasons why he wanted to do the Joker, was because he didn't feel like he could do comedies anymore because of woke culture. And I guess he's been saying other stuff too. That hasn't kind of reached me. I saw the woke culture thing because everyone was making fun of it. But I guess he's been saying other stuff that everyone kind of agrees that if Todd Phillips just shuts up and stands aside and lets the movie speak for itself, that this movie would probably be getting a lot more buzz and it would help the movie out a little bit more. So I don't know what's going on. Joker, it's a polarizing experience even before watching the movie. So there is that. I don't know how I feel about it. We'll see how that works out. So Joker. That is your wide release this week. Your limited releases, again, are Lucy in the Sky and Pain and Glory. That's it. That's all I got for you guys this week. The trailers that came out this week are all down below in the description/show notes area. There's other stuff down there as well, like my personal social media accounts for the podcast. That is the Facebook page, the Twitter page, so I'm trying to update a lot more constantly now. The WordPress account is down there where I do written reviews. I will be doing a written review for Joker once I watch it, so you can probably look forward to that on Sunday or Monday up on there. And what else is down there? The Featurette for 1917, if you want to go check that out. Oh, there's also a very, very good read of a GQ UK article with Matt Damon and Christian Bale. They were promoting their new movie, Ford versus Ferrari, which we'll talk about once we get closer to the release date. They released a new trailer for that last week, which obviously I didn't get to talk about, or 2 weeks ago, something like that. But they were promoting that, and one of the good things that came out of the interview was Matt Damon revealed that he was offered the role of Avatar, and he turned it down. And apparently, it would have been a really, really good payday for Matt Damon if he took that role. He missed out like on something close to $300 million, which is amazing to me. That he even suggested that he even was okay with revealing that to everyone. So the rest of the article though is really great. It's a really great read if you want to just see how Matt Damon and Christian Bale's minds work. It's really, really awesome. So I'll link those two things down below as well, so you guys can go check them out. And that's it. That's all I got for you guys. Just, as always, I always say this, but have a fun weekend. Be safe. Be aware of your surroundings in general, but more so this weekend, especially if you go watch The Joker this weekend. There's no reason to really be alarmed, but there's always that small chance. So just be safe out there this weekend. Have a fun weekend. Be good people. And as always, my usual, as always, go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movie!